Hello everyone, this is Sumerian, and instead of doing a tutorial today, I've decided I'm going to take you on a little tour of how I go about linking together a lot of the circuits I use in some of my toy boxes. This is a toy box that I've just submitted. It's called Battle Arena X, and from up here it really doesn't look like much. It's a little bit of an arena, and you can see a couple Odin's treasures down there, and that's about it. Challenge maker up here in this box that we're in, and a checkpoint. But we're going to go take a deeper look at it. Alright, so here we are in the arena itself. Up there you can see the spot we were just in, over there. In the arena itself, every corner has a Odin's treasure, and it has a trigger point right behind it. And in the middle we see some blocks with some checkpoints on the top, and if we go up there, we'll see a trigger area right in the middle as well. And I'm guessing you can tell I put a bit of a jump area in the middle. Out here there's no jump like that, it's just in the middle. So we're gonna turn the wand on here, just so we can see some things. Not much in this corner, but then as you get into the middle, there are a lot of locators all over the place. And then when you get to these other treasure areas, they've all got a trigger area and a bunch of locators around them. So you still don't see much logic here, but I'm going to show you the logic. And a lot of it I've actually shown you before in other tutorials. For example, right around here is our multiplayer circuit that we just did a tutorial on. This stuff right here, that is all the multiplayer circuit that not only counts how many players you are, but knows which players are actually playing by these logic gates up here being closed. And then over at each corner where the players are, we have our counter circuits, where they can keep track of the score of each player, and you can purchase items based on the score of 5, 10, 15, or 20. And down here is our subtract circuit, and up here is our addition circuit. Works exactly like the tutorial we had on our currency system. Then here we have our spawn circuit, and this controls our enemies spawning during the event. And how it works is, this is the overall main control. If I turn this off, the game is over. And then we have one of our simple time delay systems, and every time it finishes the delay, it sends a message into this top gate, and depending on which gates are open and closed, it counts how many times it sent that signal out. And these are controlled by how many players are in the game. So if there's 2 players, it counts to 6. If there's 3 players, it counts to 3. And if there's 4 players, it counts to 2. If there's only 1 player, I did put a solo mode in, but it's completely controlled by a separate circuit over here. So what happens is, once it's fired off the 6th, 3, or 2, or it's fired off that many times, it then goes to a timer here, which counts to 15 seconds and then starts the whole circuit over again. Now, what it's doing when it's making these counts to 6, 3, or 2 is it's sending a signal to 4 logic gates. And that's this one, which is player 1, this one, which is player 3, one up there, which is player 2, and then this one right here, which is player 4. And these are controlled by whether a player is in the game or not. So if my multiplayer circuit, if the logic gate closes for player 1, it closes this logic gate here. So what happens is, every time this system sends out a signal, it sends it to those 4 logic gates I just showed you, and the input blocked of each of these logic gates is tied to the 3 that are beside it. And so how this works is, when I get a signal in, if this gate is closed, it sends a signal from its input block to all 3 of these. And any of these that are closed as well, sends a signal to one of these enemy generators. And how these get closed is each gate beside the main gate, so this gate is for player 1, whether he's in the game. This one represents player 2, 3, and 4 in this circuit. And then at the player 3's gate, this one represents player 1, 2, and 4. And how they're controlled is when this main gate for player 1 closes, he closes the player 1 gate at each of the other circuits. So how it works is if player 3 is in the game, this gate is closed. If player 1 is in the game, it is closed this gate. So whenever a signal hits this main gate, the enemy generator that's facing player 1 will spawn an enemy. And so on and so forth for the other gates. If player 2 happens to be here, and player 3, then an enemy will be spawned there as well. And why it's counting is if you have 2-player game, you only will have enemies spawning. Let's say you have player 1, which is right there, and player 2, which is on the opposite orange side here. You will have 6 enemies spawning every 15 seconds, and they will be spawning at the locators that are closest to the enemy you are fighting. So in this case, player 1 will be spawning 6 enemies right here, and player 2 will be spawning 6 enemies right here, closer to the other player's treasure gate, or Odin's treasure. And if player 3 is active, instead of 6 enemies being spawned, what's going to happen is I'll get 3 enemies right here from player 1 facing player 2, and I will get 3 enemies spawning right here facing player 3. And if it's a 4-player game, I would get 2 here, 2 here, and 2 right here. And it's the exact same setup for each of the players. That's why each player basically has 3 locators, 1 facing each of the other possible players. So that's how that circuit works, and how it decides how many enemies to spawn and where to spawn them, based on which player is in the game. And so I've also forced, using these team, what are they called even? Team activators. So each player has a team activator assigned to them. So when player 1 is here, he's blue, player 2 is orange, player 3 is green, player 4 is purple, no matter what. Now, I also have these falling object generators at every corner except for player 1's, because player 1 is always going to be present. That is the host. So player 1 will always be here. And the reason I had to put these in is because I hate Odin generators. I can't send a signal to them to just destroy them, and I can't turn them off. And even with my putting the enemies as close to the other player as possible, sometimes an enemy will break off and just wander over here and start attacking this Odin's treasure for no reason, even though that player is not playing. I have no way of getting rid of this treasure. So what I'm doing, and you see these 4 locators surrounding the Odin's treasure, is if a player is not present, or in other words, if their gate does not close, I send a signal into this circuit right here, which starts a counter, or one of my little time delayer systems, to start spawning mines from each of these 4 falling object generators, which are attached to these 4 locators. And this trigger area around here is simply attached to a kill switch, so if a physics ball enters, it kills the physics ball. And that is how you get a mine toy to explode, by killing it. So what I'm doing is bombing any of these Odin treasure that I don't need in the game. It glitches out occasionally where the Odin's treasure will absolutely just cease to exist and disappear from the toy box, but it works fairly frequently, and if it glitches out, you can just reload the toy box. So that is how I get rid of the Odin's treasures that I don't need in each round. Now these trigger areas are attached to my currency systems. This one here, if you have 5 points, it spawns a mini Zerg. If you have 10 points, it spawns a big Zerg. And if you have, did I say 20 or 10? That's 10 points, a big Zerg, and 20 points, it spawns one of those tank Omni droids out in the middle here, who will randomly pick an enemy to start attacking. And the middle trigger is hooked up to a randomizer, which will spawn some useful pack and toolkits right to this locator here. And that's all based off the currency system that I have a couple tutorials on that you can watch if you feel like it. Other than that, I have my basic toys here for controlling packs, and my toy box game maker, and my victory tracker, which is how I keep track of the points. And after that, there really isn't that much left of the game. I basically have circuits for currency for each individual player. I have circuits to destroy any Odin's treasure I don't need. And I have the circuit for my multiplayer, and the circuit for controlling how many enemies are spawning and where they're spawning. Seems like a lot of logic in the bottom here, and it probably is a lot of logic, but it really is giving me the effect that I wanted for this game, which is an arena that adjusts itself to how many players are actually playing, which I think matches the multiplayer challenge fairly well. And I did decide near the end that I would make a solo mode, and somehow I became green, but that'll change if I start the challenge maker. So I did make a solo mode, and all I've done is, by cheating and adjusting some of the logic that was down below there, I spawn 4 enemies each at each of the checkpoints that is facing player 1. So every 15 seconds you have 12 enemies coming at you. It makes it rather challenging. There's certain characters who definitely do better than other characters. So in a second the camera's going to swing here. And the reason this intro is happening is A, to tell you the rules, but B, to give those mines a chance to start wiping out those Odin treasures before our enemies spawn. The Odin treasures are probably about 3/4 health down by now, by this point. And as you see, some of these enemies are going to start running off towards those other trigger areas right away, or the other Odin's treasure areas right away, which is the reason I need to get rid of them, so that the enemies focus on the players they're supposed to be focusing on, instead of just wandering off and doing whatever they want in random spots. So that is this Battle Arena X toy box. I hope you've enjoyed seeing some of the logic underneath. Actually, I believe the one I submitted is unlocked, so that you can actually go in and look down at the logic yourself. Or if it's not, I have put in a little Easter egg where if you defeat the game on solo mode, it will unlock the toy box mode, so that you can actually go down, look at it, and edit if you need to. Anyway, this is Sumerian. I hope you've enjoyed seeing how I put this toy box together, and have yourselves a great day.